After hitting a game-winning shot for the second time in this 2025 postseason, did Aaron Gordon and the Nuggets send a message to the juggernaut Oklahoma City Thunder? What in the world is going on with Michael Porter Jr., and what should interim head coach David Adelman do in order to keep the ball moving here in the postseason? And is Russell Westbrook potentially beginning to change his postseason narrative as a future Hall of Famer who has spent time with a significant number of teams in the last half decade or so? And finally, are we finally getting to see full ownership of the Denver Nuggets from their star player, the center of their universe, Nikola Jokic? All things to come on a basketball-packed rundown where we will begin and stay in the NBA, because in case you missed it, Aaron Gordon hit a shot. That was the words from Thunder head coach Mark Daigneault, who was, I think, channeling the infamous line from Anthony Davis in last year's first round, who went up to a microphone after being stunned by the Nuggets and said, Jamal Murray hit a shot. You'll remember from that postseason series, Jamal Murray had 2 game-winning and buzzer-beating shots to send the Lakers home in 5 games of that series. But last night, it was all Aaron Gordon. He was the star of the show, and he was the man, despite the fact that we got yet another thick, chunky, beautiful box score from Nikola Jokic. He goes for 42, 22, and 6 assists on the game in what I would describe as not a stellar. It's hard to say stellar. Not your typical A-plus kind of performance from Jokic. I thought there was kind of some lumbering throughout the early portions of that game. But the fact that a guy like Nikola Jokic can go for 40-plus, 20-plus, and 6 on a game that he's not even truly hitting his peak is just another testament to how unbelievable he is as a player and how valuable he is to the Denver Nuggets when faced head-to-head with the probable winner of league MVP this year in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who you'll note by looking through the data was a minus player for the Thunder when he was on the court. Conversely, when it comes to stat projections and overall impact on a game, as impactful as Nikola Jokic was and as Aaron Gordon was, as we'll get into in a minute, what in the world is happening with Michael Porter Jr.? He has 24 minutes, finishes with just 2 points on 1 of 8 shooting, 0 from beyond the arc, where he is supposed to be making his biggest impact on a team that struggles with 3-point shooting, both from a percentage and a volume standpoint at times. He looked lost out there. He looked disassociated. He's clearly dealing with lingering issues from his shoulder strain that he suffered during the Clippers series. And I'm not really sure where they go from here, because the Nuggets are so thin from a quality bench contribution standpoint that they can rarely afford to just sit Michael Porter Jr. and thrust a player like Russell Westbrook or Payton Watson into the starting lineup to be exposed for more minutes than I think that David Adelman and the team would like. But he is such a non-factor out there from a scoring perspective and becoming a little bit of a liability from a turnover and defensive perspective, where his defensive effort has already been called into question at times during this season. And then you have sequences where he lackadaisically goes up for a rebound with one arm and gets pickpocketed. He was looking the other direction, or kind of felt like he was a step and a half behind on a couple of transition passes that just floated right by him, one of which it felt like he was looking completely off into the distance and didn't realize the ball was even in play. And then you have the bizarre backcourt violation sequence, where a backcourt violation feels like youth basketball level AAU kind of knowledge about how to handle that and how to approach it. And not only did he not try to extend himself and save the basket, he corralled it and dribbled it intentionally back past half court, like he didn't know where he was on the court or whether or not it had gone off of another player. Regardless, I made the comparison in my brain of he looked like Charles Barkley and the host of NBA players in Space Jam after those little aliens had stolen all of their basketball talent. It was just like the prototype and the physical specimen of an NBA player was there, but everything from the head down was not firing. The synapses were not connecting on how to make the proper plays in a game where the Nuggets had such a little margin for error. So I don't know whether the residual effects of the shoulder injury are limiting him to such a degree from an offensive perspective that he just can't be trusted or relied upon to be a scorer out there, and thus Oklahoma City, who's the best defensive team in the league and just has wave after wave of length and athleticism and speed on the defensive end, can just shift away from him and make it harder for the other shooters on the floor, that David Adelman needs to do something about it and potentially look at sitting him. I don't know that that's the best possible answer because of the bench limitations that the Nuggets have, but that is going to cost Denver in this series if they do not find a way to either mask it or remedy it in a hurry. All right. When it comes to Aaron Gordon, Mr. Nugget, as is aptly titled for today's episode, he was simply fantastic. Aaron Gordon has been such a glue guy type player for this team, and his contributions, not just from a late game heroic standpoint where he had the unbelievable buzzer beating tip in dunk to help dispatch the LA Clippers at a point where that series was teetering on potentially falling out of Denver's control, that he has a game-winning 3-point shot with less than 3 seconds remaining on the clock that put the Oklahoma City Thunder in kind of a stunned position where they found themselves up 3 with under 13 seconds left to play and lose in regulation by 2. It was allowed to happen by some bizarre, confounding clock management situation and coaching from Mark Daigneault and the Oklahoma City Thunder, where you're up 3 with 12.9 seconds remaining, and you're fouling immediately with no time taken off the clock to give Denver more opportunity to make things work, and then you're not hitting your clutch free throws down the stretch. And we see the NBA play that foul game all the time because you're just trying to limit a possession and hope that they miss. Well, Chet Holmgren misses the pair in the final 10 seconds of the game to allow a turnaround opportunity from Aaron Gordon that was fed by Russell Westbrook. And man, Russell Westbrook, he has a narrative in the latter half of his career where he is undoubtedly going to do a backflip into the National Basketball Association Hall of Fame one day, and how much he meant to the Thunder organization. He has an argument to be the greatest player in the history of their franchise. I know Kevin Durant certainly has an opportunity or an argument to eclipse that. But from a longevity standpoint, for how long he was there and what he meant to that organization when he was averaging triple doubles season in and season out, winning MVPs and kind of being the point guard, focal point, the distributor on that offense that featured Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka, and James Harden. He clearly means a lot to that community. And so to have an integral part in the game-winning sequence in front of the crowd that spent so many years cheering for him was pretty special. And he had the opportunity, as we've seen Russ do time and time again, to use that bull in a china shop, only have one speed, 11 out of 10, crank it up energy to drive to the basket and potentially take a contested 2-on-1 layup opportunity or a contested jump shot opportunity with the game on the line. But instead, he makes the perfect, selfless basketball play coming off of a third quarter of basketball where he was absolutely fantastic and a huge part of the reason why the Nuggets were able to hang around and stay in this game. He makes the perfect, selfless basketball play, drawing the attention to crash in before kicking it out to Aaron Gordon on the left side, who, despite only being down 1, took a 3-point shot to win the game and converted. So Russell Westbrook, I don't know if I would go so far as to say he's changed his postseason narrative about being a contributing and an impactful player in the regular season and then falling apart in the postseason when teams are able to kind of analyze and scrutinize him, target him more specifically over a 7-game series. But he's on the way to that. He has been one of the more value impactful signings for the Denver Nuggets, given how much they paid for him, what little flexibility that they had, and the impact that he has brought playing alongside Nikola Jokic and being kind of a leader of the non-Jokic minutes bench unit. it has been far superior to, I think, what the expectations dictated that it would be. And Aaron Gordon, I thought about this last night and I thought about it this morning, and I feel confident in saying this. Aaron Gordon is the single greatest player that the Denver Nuggets have ever traded for in the history of their franchise. And that's not necessarily a light statement, in my opinion, because that puts him up there in conversation with names like Allen Iverson and Chauncey Billups and Marcus Camby and Kenyon Martin. And all of those players, both individually and with what they brought to the team with their different skill sets, were great. But there's a reason Aaron Gordon is called Mr. Nugget. From a physical standpoint, he provides a defensive presence and a level of grit and attitude that the Denver Nuggets sorely lack and have lacked before his time being here. From an emotional standpoint, he is a heartbeat type player. He is the emotional connective tissue that helps hold this team together, and the rest of his teammates rally around that. And then from a physical and skill set standpoint, this is a player who completely overhauled his entire stylistic play of basketball into something entirely different to fit a role that is perfect here with the Denver Nuggets. This was an Aaron Gordon who was by far and away the most explosive offensive and best player on a terrible Orlando Magic team, who we saw winning dunk contests and high-flying, above-the-rim style of play, and has since, in the latter half of his career, shifted entirely to being a rare hard hat and lunch pail type player in the NBA. Whatever assignment he is asked to do defensively, he does it. On a title run where he had to take on the team's best player or players in every single series as a defensive assignment, from Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns, to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, to LeBron James, to Jimmy Butler, Aaron Gordon found a way to stymie and take away the opponent's best offensive weapon, series in and series out, en route to helping the team win their first title in franchise history. Make no mistake, they do not win that title without him. And then in the years since then, continuing to fight through personal tragedy off the court in his own life, while simultaneously overhauling the weaker points of his game. Three-point shooting, free throw shooting, things that he, over the course of his career, was shooting at below average marks for good chunks of a season. He has completely overhauled that. In the 2023-2024 season, Aaron Gordon was shooting 63% from the free throw line. In 2025, he's up to 81% average in the regular season from the charity stripe and shooting at almost 90% in this postseason. From a three-point shooting perspective, in 2024, he was shooting 29% from beyond the arc. In 2025, he's up to 43.6% on nearly double the attempts from the previous season from beyond the arc. And his mid-range game has not fallen off at all. In fact, he is one of the rare players who has seen potentially double-digit rises in all three major statistical categories of shooting year over year. It's unprecedented to the degree that he has been able to focus and isolate on the specific weak points of his game and overcome them in order to provide the Nuggets with what they need based on the shifting roster around him and complementing Nikola Jokic. He is the single greatest player from an impact standpoint that the Denver Nuggets have ever traded for in the history of their organization. It's the best single trade transaction that the Denver Nuggets have ever made. He is my favorite Nugget of all time. He is, like I said, the connective tissue between this team. And you don't have to take my word for it. Take the word of Nikola Jokic, who is the sun that this solar system revolves around. When asked about Aaron Gordon being one of the 5 best teammates he's ever played for, Nikola Jokic interrupted the reporter after the game and said, "No, I said the best, top 5 teammate in my life. He's the soul of this team. He's a glue guy, and he probably doesn't get the respect he deserves." If Nikola Jokic's word isn't good enough for you, how about interim head coach David Adelman, who has spent time around this team as an assistant? He said, quote, "Aaron is going to be the hero again, but I'm looking at 14 rebounds. I'm looking at 22 points, ball handling responsibilities, leadership. He is a Denver Nugget. He is the soul of our team." I don't know how much more succinct and clear that it can be summed up how much Aaron Gordon means to this team than from the words of those two gentlemen right there. And you can say it's manifested itself in the form of game-winning, buzzer-beating shots that's happened now twice in this postseason in two separate series. But it really is all of the little things, the hard hat and lunch pail mentality, the improving from a shooting perspective from the free throw line, from the mid-range, from the three-point line, being able to act as a primary ball handler to help shift the offensive scheme and free up Jokic to move things around and use his supreme court vision to dissect what the opponent is doing without having to be the fulcrum that everything weighs on at all times. As a passer, and he actually gave credit to Russell Westbrook when he was asked about the game-winning shot, and his main focus of that answer was, it sure helps having a Hall of Fame passer like Russ to be able to put the ball on time and on target to allow me to have an opportunity to make a play. But again, the trust that his teammates have in him and the ability that he has to help swing the fortunes of this franchise, who going into the series against the Clippers were underdogs as the higher seed for the majority of the games that they played, and now face the number one seed, 68-win juggernaut Oklahoma City Thunder, to go in there on less than 2 days rest and steal game one on the road. Aaron Gordon is the fibrous tissue that helps make those moments happen. His impact on this team will reverberate for years to come, and it is a message that he and the Nuggets have fired across the bow to the Oklahoma City Thunder and to the NBA of, you might be the 68-win team who has taken the Western Conference by storm, and it was a secretariat-style lapping of the field, but we're here to play. It reminded me a little bit, honestly, of Rocky Balboa, the 6th movie installment in the Rocky franchise, where a much older and aging Rocky is facing a young champion named Mason the Lion Dixon. And it's this like recreation of an AI simulated fight that took the figurative sports world by storm. And Rocky gets into the ring with this person who's maybe 3 decades his junior. And after a couple of rounds, there's the scene where Mason Dixon is bleeding from his lips, and he has the realization of, hey, this guy can hit. This guy can still swing it harder than I expected. And I think that's exactly the kind of punch that the Denver Nuggets, who have been underdogs despite being the higher seed, who have depth concerns, who are hit or miss from beyond the three-point arc, who are weak in so many areas at times where the Oklahoma City Thunder are so strong. They sent a message on no rest, despite the Oklahoma City Thunder having more than a week of rest, of saying, we're coming to play and you better be ready. And I fully expect that the Thunder, after getting popped on the chin and maybe surprised a little bit and embarrassed at home, are going to come back in full force in game 2 tomorrow night. And that is an answer that the Nuggets are going to have to find a way to be able to counter if they want to stay alive in this series. What a fantastic way to open the week. I cannot wait to see what is in store. We are hearing right now from Avalanche team president Joe Sakic and general manager Chris McFarland about the future of that franchise and how they plan to dissect what happened against the Dallas Stars and move forward into the 2025-2026 offseason. And while it seems like for now no changes will be made, Avalanche general manager Chris McFarland speaking today makes it almost illogical or impossible that he will be dismissed this offseason. And you would think that Jared Bednar, who is not speaking today but has not been dismissed as of yet, is probably safe going into the next season as well. So the run it back philosophy seems to be taking prevalence over there for the Avalanche at Ball Arena, and we will see how this regime handles the offseason moves that are going to have to come up when they pushed all their chips into the center of the table and traded away top prospects like Cal Ritchie and draft capital where they don't have a first-round pick in the next couple of drafts. So with light cupboards and not a lot of youth in the pipeline, how are the Avalanche, who put it all in on this season, going to respond and handle the moves before next season, where it's seemingly going to be a foregone conclusion that they're going to have to go all in again? That will be the focal point of our conversation tomorrow, along with the Nuggets preview for Game 2. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you like and subscribe to our Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at DEN Sports 104.3, at Denver Sports 104.3. I am Richie Carney, and I will see you tomorrow at the same time in the same place.
I do what I love what I do. It's second nature to put in the work.